Good morning and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Heavyweights podcast. I am Ashton Hines. I started in the real estate game a little over 4 years ago. I have flipped 4 houses. I have sold numerous homes for and to people in the DFW area. I, along the way, met a fine gentleman who knew what he was doing in the real estate world, and his name was Tavis Westbrook, and we have joined forces like superheroes of the real estate world in DFW. And we come to you every week with a podcast.
We are here.
And Tavis is with us. What's going on, Tavis?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. I don't know what episode are we
96.
Now? This is oh man,
96.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a little while.
Maybe on episode 100, I'll update your stats because I've said it for a while. You've flipped over 200. I think you're over 225. Like I want to get the real number.
Well,
so maybe episode
okay,
100 or 101, we can reveal your new flip number for the next
We'll
100
have to
episodes of how I talk about you.
Well, over 200.
Over 200
works,
works, but
so,
yeah, we want to give you some credit. So
yeah. All good. You know, it's one of those things. You hear wholesalers and other people talk like stupid numbers, 1,000, 1,500 or more. So 200 doesn't seem like that much, right? In the grand scope of things, but when you are doing it, full turnkey renos, it definitely adds up. And there's a lot of projects.
Well, plus you've done some traditional sales. So if you count transaction sides, because if you're wholesaling a deal, you're just basically doing one transaction. It's really not count as two. I mean, it's one that turns into two, but you're not having to do it. And then 3 months later, you're selling it. You're just kind of it's this one sort of transaction. So if,
last couple of years, and wholesale was kind of included in some of those numbers because the flips were only a couple a year, and we were picking off some to hold for buy and hold. We were holding some for midterm rentals, that kind of thing. So, we still picked up the project, but we kept it instead of.
We should talk about transaction sides.
Or cycling.
You've probably done 500 transaction sides, I would guess, something like that.
Maybe more. Maybe more on the transaction side.
But maybe you should start getting a tattoo of like a little check mark. It's just this tally thing on your forearm. Just every time you do one, we just do a little tattoo. We'll get Anthony to get a tattoo machine and just like give you get a little mark right there. So Anthony, you but Luke has helped me demo some. Anthony is helping you do some demo. Landon says he wants in on all the fun. So it's going to become quite the family operation at some point. The trick is, like, I'm not great at demo. I've been getting better. Demo is one of those things where you just you see Chip and Joanna, and all he does is do karate chops on windows and throws bricks through windows. And he like takes sledgehammers to pillars and just half the house falls down. It's so hilarious, but really that's not how you demo. And I think some people think that it's like, oh yeah, let's just start going to town on the countertops. But then you're like, well, we have to fix everything that else that just got ripped up. We have to fix
the things that get demoed more than
the collateral damage. So I think becoming more of a surgeon where you're like, okay, I'm gonna take my time and I'm gonna cut here. Then I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to put some sheets down so it doesn't scratch this and whatever. And then I'm going to drag this through the house out to the garage, and I'm not going to scrape all the floors in the process. And, so it is a learning process, but.
Well, like Dabney did a good job. And I think overall it was, a fairly simple demo, except for the tile kicking your butt.
And maybe that's a me problem, but I do think it was hard.
But the only thing over there is just taking off more than expected when it came to taking off the baseboards in the bedrooms, and I was like, oh no. So I mean that adds expenses, to it. It adds timeline because now I had to, there's a sequence in place of doing trim work and then paint, and doing trim work in like carpet areas because it's much more to go in. It's harder to go paint a baseboard on carpet than it is paint a baseboard on top of a hard
Yeah.
surface.
And
Um,
despite what people think, you don't have a warehouse full of trim, and you also don't
mm-hmm.
have a trim carpenter on call that's just like waiting for you to be like, what do I do today, boss? Like you have to get them
Right.
on the schedule. And so when things like that go wrong, okay, now maybe I've got to order all this stuff. They've got to deliver it. Then they've got to go over and do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are the mistakes so I've got to work on my
It's a
process of
process.
sort of recording the whole scope of work. And
then the other house in Carrollton that Anthony kind of took charge on and ran for a couple days, did pretty good. His biggest thing is probably just balancing his time schedule. And he's working doubles. He's working, evenings in the restaurant. So he's trying to fit it in. But
restaurant hours are not
challenging
super
to do that,
to
depending on
construction too, because they work late there. It's like I don't
exactly. So, that's probably been his biggest challenge is doing that. But then I think he loves the aggression part, to be able to take out his aggression on demos and things. But I happened to be the other day when he was trying to take the ceiling fan down, and he's just yanking on it. And I'm like in the bathroom around the corner, and I just hear like sheetrock moving, and I'm like, holy crap, like this whole ceiling's about to collapse on his head.
I remember doing demo. I think it was at Polk. It might have been Polk or Mapleton, my last two flips. I remember because I didn't know the difference. And I was just hearkening back to an episode of Chip and Joanna that I saw. And I was going at a fan with a sledgehammer.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I guess let's go. And I just started hitting that thing with a sledgehammer. And sure enough, eventually it comes down. But there's no telling what you do to the braces and the electrical and
everything. Yeah. You don't realize like a little thing like that, how bad you can damage other stuff, right? So when I got in there, he's doing that. I'm like, hey, take a break. Hold on. Pause. Let me get up here and see. He's like, I can't figure this out. And he was trying to drop it off the fitting at the top of the bezel and happened to just have one of those little clip-on bezels that was hiding the screws. So he couldn't see the screws, but those 3 little tiny screws were holding that thing in, man, as much as he was yanking on it. And I was like, oh God. So we got it down, but then the evidence of him struggling with the doorknob downstairs, when we realized that, and you're like, hey, what happened to this door?
Well, and some of those doorknobs are kind of like these little puzzles. Like you've got to push this little button, or you got to release this little screw, and then you pull here, and then on the other side you unscrew it. Like once you do one, you're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. They're all like this. But yes, it does take a little bit of problem solving. But but I've been there, man. I have gone to town on doorknobs with a hammer. So Ricardo, my favorite awful construction guy, he ruined a front door one day because he was like a brand new front door with hardware. He was going to town with a hammer trying to get a lock off. So anyway, it happens.
I'm just glad he stopped after the first.
Bro,
one, right? Because
I'm confident he retired down to Honduras or whatever after my job. He's like, dude, this is 9 years worth of income. He's living like a king down in Honduras.
Dude, I don't know how he even knew to charge you that much. That's the baffling concept. After when I met him and the whole concept came together, I was like, how did he even know how to charge you this much money that he's charging you? It was one man.
He found one gullible idiot,
trick pony, man.
He is living like a king.
Yeah.
All right. For me, I'm hoping to go walk that property that I sent you this morning. It's a Louisville wholesale deal that looks somewhat promising. And we're going to talk about some of the, why don't we talk about this a little bit right now? Yeah. We're running numbers, and you're finding that you're having to kind of revise your overall theory on rehab right now, just because several of your trades are going up in price. And so we've gone through this before. We probably need to do a revised version of how to, estimate renovation. We've talked about it a bunch, but we kind of start in the very, very, very low, maybe 30s, very rarely but that's the most lipstick job you could figure out. And then goes up to maybe like 70. There are some range in there, depending on how many major systems, how big the house is, all these things. And so we
Right.
can kind of get close. I would say a lot of our wholesale type jobs were between 40 and 50, maybe 60. And so that's kind of where most of them land. And it's just like, hey, do we have foundation and roof, or do we just have AC and plumbing? Like, you kind of like do it, but you're kind of drilling down a little bit more because you got caught a few times, not by 50 grand, but 5 and 6 grand here and there adds up. So what are the trades that are kind of sneaking up and like, yeah, I just can't, I got to get a handle on what they're charging me on all this other stuff right now.
Electrical, plumbing, HVAC is pretty reasonable depending on what it is. We typically kind of know what we're getting into with the HVAC stuff. But plumbing and electrical, just, and there's plumbing electrical on every house, right? So, if you're changing out valves and trims, in showers, even if you save money and you do, shower valve kit, tub spout, shower head, and you're doing it in chrome. Let's say that you spend $50 for that material, you're still paying the labor to change that out. And it's a good idea to change out the cartridge, which is the valve. Otherwise, you potentially are going to have problems, right, on the back end. It's nothing worse than like doing all your tile work and making it pretty and then getting ready for inspections and you've got
a drippy
something
faucet
in the wall that's not working right. Yeah, it's not shutting off, the diverter's not working, or it's not getting hot, or
plus then you can put in a modern valve that will accept Delta or Moen or whatever you're doing, and then you have a lot more choices on your trim levels. And then in 5 years, when they want to upgrade their bathroom, they can actually order something that's not some arbitrary valve that was built in 1977. They have no idea what's going to fit.
Well, and most of the time, like, your sink faucets, right? Even if you can keep counters and spray your counters, your faucets most likely need to be changed out. And then that gets into the stops underneath the sink. And the old 80s way of doing it, they were welded together. And sometimes those shutoff valves aren't very good, and so you're changing those out. So almost every house we're changing a couple stops, the washer boxes, those are, most of the time they leak. They're old school. They've got the old, hose valve. It looks like a outside spigot, faucet, and they're rusted and they look nasty. And, a lot of times they leak, or somebody left a hose on them because they leak. And so the hose, is looped on itself. Right. So plumbing wise, you're going to have that. Then you've got a dishwasher on the final. You've got, for me, if you're removing floors, most of the time we're going to go ahead and just replace the toilets. It's not a lot of sense in trying to keep an old toilet and replace it. And so you've got to know not only your material list for your plumbing, but the labor side is what's gone up for me compared to what it used to be. It used to be $2,000, $2,500 for a trim out job. Now we're averaging $3,500 to $4,000, and that doesn't really vary too much on the size of the house. If you've got 2 bathrooms and you've got a kitchen, it's all done by stops or bathroom count, right? So if we have a 2.5 bath house, right? Well, now you got 3 toilets, right? So things like that don't really evaluate. They don't change in value, meaning, let's say we have a 3,000 square foot house, 2 bedroom or 2.5 bath house. My plumbing budget is going to be the same for that house, essentially, as it would be for a 1,000 square foot house, right?
And that's why when we're estimating price per square foot on rehab, we fudge higher on smaller houses because you're dividing that fixed costs across a smaller footprint, and so it actually looks like it's a more expensive rehab price per square foot, but it's the actual flat rate is there.
Right. And then electrical, same concept. Used to be like $1,500 to $2,000 maybe for a trim out, which is plug switches, lights, plug switches, and fixtures, right? now there's a lot of renovators and a lot of people that do what we do that don't go through that, and they don't change out plugs and switches. Um, and you know, if they look okay, sometimes I'll try to keep them. Sometimes it bites me in the butt. I have to do them anyways. Because to be in accordance to Trek guidelines, you need to have GFCIs in the kitchen and the bathrooms. So sometimes by the time you start peeling that back and doing those, you start looking at the other ones and you're like, man, these are no good. Or you start troubleshooting as you're going through and putting up lights and fixtures and things don't work.
Yeah, right.
So you're changing them out anyways. So it's better just to budget it on the front end that you're going to do lights and, lights, plugs, or switches and plugs in addition to your
trim out, or your light trim out.
Your trim out. So typically you're looking at least 1,000 for plugs and switches, maybe up to 1,500 for plugs and switches in addition to your fixtures, and it equates more into how many days is it going to take them. If it's a 1-day job, 2-day job, 3-day job, that's going to essentially be how my electric bill reflects, for the electric.
What about a panel? What is a panel costing?
So a panel's running average about $2,500. And that's just for panel change out. Now, if it's on the outside wall, it's going to be more, because they have to do a weatherproof box. And if you have to bring it up to code, meaning like, for instance, Dabney, the cheat code on that was do it now before we got very far into Reno, right? So you went over there and you pulled out carpets and tile, but we did the panel change out before we got too far into the demolition, because if we go through the demolition like the way that it looks right now, there's a good possibility that the inspector could have said, hey, you're doing all this. And now, for instance, all the light fixtures are missing, right? So if an inspector ever walks into a house to do a panel change out and the littlest things, even your smoke detectors are disconnected and hanging off the ceiling, he's going to red flag you. Everything has to be plugged in and working. And so we left everything alone, got the inspection done up front, and it allowed us just to do a panel change out inside the garage and bring it up to code within reason without rewiring the house and having to add an emergency disconnect. So that's a new code now. 2020 code requires an emergency disconnect. It requires, arc fault breakers. It requires dedicated circuits now to your range, dedicated circuits to your microwave and your refrigerator and, your major appliances. That used to not be the case. It used to not be the code. Now it is. And so you have to be careful on that. Because if you're, for instance, you miss it, or like on Fargo, right? We had a problem with the meter base from Encore. And in order to change that meter base out, we had to get a permit. We had to change the panel out. But when that happened, when we realized the problem, we were already so far into the project. So we called inspectors, the inspection to come out. Well, he comes out on the final, because we're done at this point. We didn't have him come back out until we had all the lights and fans and everything. Well, he realized all the plugs and switches are new. So then he flagged us on not having dedicated circuits and not having arc fault breakers. And he didn't like the LED mirrors because they weren't whatever listed and all of these things. So we had to pull the LED mirrors off the wall, put a blank plate over it, get past inspection, and go put them back, So anyways, when those things happen, those are those surprises that nobody talks about. And those numbers run on things that have nothing to do with like majors, right? Everybody talks about the majors. When you see a wholesale list now, it's like, oh, all majors are good. Well, what that means is the roof is okay from what I could see. HVAC is okay from what I could see. And foundation's okay from what I can see. Those are the three majors. Nobody really talks about, the trade stuff. They don't talk about electrical too often. They might see a panel and go, oh, you need to change the panel. It's easy, $2,500.
Well, and the way you comp things,
they don't talk about the labor.
Right. But the way you comp things and do things, you're not really bordering on losing money on a project. it just eats into your profit that you've buffered. And
Right.
so you're just trying to get better about sharpening your pencil of like, okay, yeah, if I need to make this, then I want to go ahead and allocate this much towards electrical and plumbing and all that stuff. And that's where some of those soft cost, that's where you'll lose one and someone else will pick it up because they're doing, 2,500 here and there. They're doing a little bit of a cheaper job. They're not doing this. They're painting over the old outlets. They're not making these changes. They're not, and that's, to me, that's when you walk into one of your flips and people, man, this is really nice. Those are the little things that people, they may not even know that they notice it. But everything is new. Everything is done well and all that stuff. So,
well, and the proof's in the pudding, right? Like on Primrose, and this doesn't always happen, but in the Primrose project in Carrollton, 3 things came up on the inspection reports that they asked me to repair. It didn't cost me $1 because they were punch items for the trades.
That's great.
So one was a loose outlet and cover plate. The cover plate was off, and when I went over there to look at it, I was like, well, that's easy to put a cover plate back on. But the outlet was kind of sunk back in the sheetrock further, so the plate wouldn't bite. So they had to adjust the box, pull it together, and fix it, right? There was an electrician, hey, go over there and fix this. The bar sink was leaking underneath the P-trap. P-trap just didn't get tightened up enough or needed some adjustment, you know. And the dishwasher wasn't super secure in the hole based on the screws that they used and the positioning that they installed it. So that was it. It was those 3 things. And everything else, they're happy. The previous buyers had backed out of another contract prior to because too many things on the inspection report, seller wouldn't fix it. And
they
so
were happy with this.
At the end of the day, like that's where your trade-off is, right? Your trade-off is we have to be a little bit tighter on our acquisition. We have to prepare for these kind of things to be able to have the great result on the backside. And the great result on the backside ended up being that we essentially went under contract 6 days, multiple offers at a $50,000 price point higher than what I had intentionally expected, or my bottom line ARV, I guess you could say. So the high side ARV was $50K over. We listed at that. We ended up getting our number. And then the better part of it, because of multiple offers, we were able to pick and choose the right offer, and these guys are closing in 2 weeks. So what it did is it helped my overall timeline, make up some time for the holidays because I closed this back in December 20th. And everybody's happy.
For sure.
That's how you do it, folks.
You have it dialed in, and obviously it works. We've talked, you have to pass up on some deals, but whenever you find one, we know that it's almost certainly going to do pretty well. And that's why I want to go look at this Louisville one, because whenever I pencil whip it, it looks pretty good. They're a little bit off, but not way off. So it's like, okay, maybe we can make this one work. I would love to get a deal where I brought it to the table and, kind of get it into the funnel a little bit. So
absolutely.
All right, let's talk about a little bit of market update. So stay signed in real quick here. Share my screen. There we go. All right. So here in the DFW market area, I'm only allowed to show 3 counties. And so, yes, Rockwall and Tarrant and some of the other outliers. Tarrant is not an outlier, but we just can't show everything. But we sell most of our houses in Denton, Dallas, and Collin County. And so these are the ones that we look at. So original list price, I don't know what this little blip is here.
Somebody screwed up and put like 40 million instead of 4 million.
Collin County all of a sudden has an average of $1.1 million. This is where the MLS goes in. It's like, what are we doing? This is just throwing off all the statistics. Yeah, someone mistyped that in there. But the overall average on our MLS right now, 500 and that doesn't even sound right. No, this is throwing this off. Our average right now is like 400 something. I can't even look at this right now because this is some idiot.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, somebody plugged in. Maybe it was like 400 million.
They're throwing one idiot mistyped something and they're throwing off the whole MLS. like appraisers are like, what the heck?
Right.
Yeah. So the comps in that neighborhood, people are freaking out putting their house on the market. Like, honey, it's time. So here's days on market 51. Let's see, average. Let's go. That's median. So average 72. That's what I've been telling people. Overall average is 72. Collin County 66. Collin County and Denton County are trending down. Dallas is flat, but Collin and Denton are trending down. Overall MLS is trending up. But that would be nice if we could, it's springtime. Things are moving and grooving. Did an open house this last weekend, had 9 people come through. That was a pretty new listing. So we have month supply is trending up. So even though we are getting activity, it is stacking up, or at least per the numbers, we're going in that direction. Overall home for sale, we're at 39,000. We peaked out at 44 last year. And let's see, new listings are still trending down, which is a weird blip we talked about last week. This doesn't typically happen. And so new listings of, let's see. In January, we had 14,836. And in February, we had 14,368. So, and when you look back, that typically the new listings go straight up during the spring, because this is kind of the hot time of year. Let's look at our closed sales. Overall closed sales, we had 7,600 closed sales. That sort of mirrors on all the different counties there. Let me go over to a different screen here, and I will show you one other statistic that we look at. There's Tavis. I thought you either passed out or you had to go somewhere else. Let's see. Overall price decreases 4,236. So actually slightly over 10% of the market, because we have less than 40,000 units right now. So people are still bringing down those prices, trying to make sense of the market.
Look at the expired numbers.
Yeah. I wish I knew. Okay. Yeah. This is 7-day. Yeah. That's as big as
so almost 5,000 expireds in the total MLS within the last 7 days.
Yep. There are people that are kind of frustrated.
If you guys have your marketing together and you're going after expireds,
go for it.
Now's the time to do it.
Go for it. I need to do some circle prospecting around Alameda and look and see what's going on around there. I thought about that yesterday. All right. Let's talk about a little bit of news. So yesterday we've talked about how the owners of the Mavericks, the Adelson family, the Sands Corporation, they left Las Vegas. They came here. They bought the Mavericks. They're trying to destroy it slowly every day. They're doing everything they can to make the Mavericks the laughing stock of the NBA by only putting 8 people in jerseys and fumbling their way through the end of the season. Meanwhile, Luka is, like I was looking at yesterday, he set some record. He's like, oh, this is the first time this has been done since Kobe did it in 2013. He's like, all these statistics. Oh, this is the best. He's already the 3rd best Laker doing this. It's just, he's killing it there. And the NBA, all the viewership in the NBA is up. Like everyone's happy except for the Dallas Mavericks. So have you been to a game recently?
Yeah, we've been to a couple.
Are they still selling out?
And they were okay.
Is it people there or like how?
It's lighter. It's lighter. I mean, I think the energy's still there. You do get, during karaoke, it seems like that's when they pan around, they find the person that's screaming,
fire Nico.
Fire Nico. And they pan away real quick. Yeah. But it seems to be a routine.
At least they're not kicking them out now. They did make the news last week that some kids at Medieval Times, the restaurant where they do the horse fighting over in Dallas, I've never been to, but it's an arena and they're sitting there fighting the horses, and a bunch of kids start the Fire Nico chant at Medieval Times.
Oh my gosh!
So he is persona non grata in Dallas. But anyway, the Sands Corporation is
very popular.
Talking about buying they did buy some property over in Irving. They're trying to rezone it for a large hotel development and gambling, even though gambling is not legal in the state of Texas yet. So they had a committee meeting last night, and a bunch of people showed up. And evidently it was an overwhelming NIMBY, not in my backyard crowd of like, we can't stand for this. This will just degrade the moral fabric of Irving, as they passed dozens of liquor stores on their way there and convenience stores that sell lottery tickets. But they didn't bring that part up, evidently.
Well, Irving was dry for a very
really?
long time. It only ended up being able to sell beer and wine in Irving
when the Cowboys went there.
Maybe 2005.
What?
No, it was like 2005.
Wow.
Yeah. When I grew up there, when I grew up there, it was always dry, and you couldn't get beer or wine in the city of Irving. So you had to go outside of it, and you had to go into Dallas to closest beer store, or there was a place called County Line. That's a kind of a weird spot over on the west side of Irving, where you get almost to Tarrant County. Basically, it's like the borderline of Dallas and Tarrant, and there was a little sliver right there where they would have beer stores. But yeah, so it's bizarre to see it, to see this pushback. It's kind of crazy. I don't know. I think, and if you look at the picture, I mean, not to be judgmental, but the majority of these people that show up to these meetings don't have a lot of life left to live, right?
Well, this guy looks younger, this guy looks hospice-ish, but in fairness, there is a kid right here who's,
I mean, I get it. That's the last,
not be surrounded by
last
debauchery
option to help their generation. Their downward generation. I get it. But it was just like when I showed up at the Airbnb stuff here in Plano, I was like, oh my gosh. Like the people that are showing up, that it's like it gives them a new hobby, right? And they may or may not really understand all of the ins and outs, but they've joined together forces and they're against it.
Here's what's nuts. So the project is projected to generate. Now this is per the people who are, the project.
Sure,
people.
This is their sales pitch.
But it's projected to generate as many as 9,000 full-time and well-paying jobs, with an investment totaling as much as $4 billion for Irving. Meanwhile, it's just a vacant lot growing weeds. It's like, and now that's what several people said. Oh, we do need development here. Yeah, it's really gone downhill. We do need something. So what they're proposing is, hey, we're all for the development. Do that. Just we don't want gambling. But I'm like, these people are from Vegas. That's why they're building it. They're not going to build a big hotel and shopping area just for you to go, not have to drive to North Park Mall.
The funny thing is Grand Prairie borders Irving. Yeah. And in fact, it's like the very south tip of Irving, and the border of Grand Prairie is where the horse track is.
Yeah.
Where Lone Star Park is, and you can gamble there. And but who gets that revenue? Grand Prairie gets that revenue. So,
I mean, I guess the Sands Corp could have bought in Grand Prairie, but then that's just a little bit further out. And I mean, Irving has had sport teams, obviously,
Well, this land, I mean, it is just north of the Texas Stadium and
close to downtown.
And Irving has digressed. It's gone way downhill. Like Irving is very segregated. The north side of 635 is still Irving. And in that area, there's a bunch of popular restaurants,
Chili's everywhere.
Whiskey Cake.
Oh, Whiskey Cake.
Well, there's Whiskey Cake, and there's, what's the Mexican restaurant that is up here in Plano that does the,
Media from
no, the kind of the fancier one that does,
I know you're on Park. I know what you're talking about.
No, it's up there at the Shops at Legacy.
Fancy Mexican.
I forget the name of it.
Mexican Sugar?
Yeah. Yes, Mexican Sugar. So they have a Mexican Sugar.
Like Google Maps of where to get fat. I mean, that's like I can. Yeah, it's like I'm a chat.
So they have all these fancy restaurants that are up on the north side, right? Which are at 635, And that's kind of like the big division. If you go south of like 635, especially south of 114, most of Irving is the hood. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I grew up there, so I can talk about it. But it's just a different.
It's a different vibe.
Their zoning is very odd. Things that used to be really nice are not very nice anymore. The mall has turned into a big bazaar. It's not really a big shopping mall anymore. Anyways, it's just that's Irving for you. So, and the majority of Irving is south of 635, and it's not very affluent. So,
I mean, I get
the
that
north side
you want to,
is a different thing.
You want to protect your hometown and all that sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like if you're a city planner and you're looking into the future, it's like, how do you turn down like when a business like this is willing to completely reshape a corner of your town and put $4 billion into it and make it a global destination? Why? I just think they would have a hard time turning it down. So they did pass it from this committee.
They've already voted. Yeah, I was going to say they've already voted. Like it was 9-1.
But this is the committee. Now they're going to send it to the actual. They're sending it to the actual city council, which is meeting Thursday. And that's another thing is like, y'all are rushing this through. We just need to think about this more. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But you would kind of think that if the Adelsons bought the property in the first place, they've already talked to a lot of these city council people and say,
oh yeah,
hey Fred, I'd love to support you next time you come up for re-election. We're going to buy this land.
Oh yeah,
I'd really like your support here. I don't think that they gambled
a lot
on
of money.
Pun intended. Okay, so this is not a terribly exciting story, but so the K. Bailey Hutchinson, they have a $3 billion renovation going in downtown. This is kind of weird. Hunt Realty shared a draft design plans with the Dallas officials to move K. Bailey Hutchinson a little further west. I thought that they voted on this last year or the year before, and there's already been plans. And then this, remember the other development a couple months ago, the guy sold the property that was right next door, and it might become like an AT&T service center or something like that. It was going to be a hotel, and now it's not. So it just seems like this whole corner and this whole project is a little more up in the air than I thought it might have been. And they're still talking about drafts of certain things. So it's very odd. I kind of wish they were moving forward with it because I like K. Bailey Hutchinson, but it just definitely seems a little bit more up in the air than maybe originally we thought. This was a sad story for me. So the company Fossil that makes watches is based there in Richardson. You can see their offices off of, I think it's Spring Valley and 75. A large office. I love watches.
Yeah, on the east side of 75.
Yep. I love watches. I've always loved watches. I don't have a lot of them. I just like learning about them and just kind of fascinated with the whole mechanics of them. And when I was growing up, I would think my mom will correct me because she listens, but almost every year I would get a Fossil watch for Christmas, something like that, or my birthday. And they were nice watches, but they were lower quality. And so they would scratch up or quit working during the year. And by the time the next year came around, it was kind of time for another Fossil. So I remember having several. I don't know if this was an every year thing, but I had several. And so they've opened up a bunch of stores, and they've announced that they're closing 1/5 of their stores. So they're closing 50 out of their 250 stores, which is a bummer. They moved into like bags and all sorts of other stuff. But, I have a soft spot in my heart for Fossil, and I hope that they do well and they continue. What's weird is doing home health and real estate. I've met people who've worked for, Raytheon and TI and all these huge Dallas companies, Southwest and American, all these big. I actually had someone who worked for Rolex, which is downtown. The Rolex building is downtown. I've never met one person who worked at Fossil, and it's a big office. So I don't know. I just think that's odd. Them being based here and having a huge office. I
met somebody a couple years ago. They relocated from California and they came here, and he was up there. I don't know what he did specifically, but he was definitely. They were up there in the ranks. I mean, they were buying it was a real estate agent that reached out to me and asked me to help do design work for him. Ended up taking the project on. He needed paint and some cosmetics and stuff like that done to this house, but it was a $900,000+ home up in McKinney that they were moving into. So
Yeah. I think it was brothers that own it, actually. I was seeing this name. Franco Fogliato is, I want to say there was maybe some brothers that own it. But anyway, best of luck to Torchies. We were going to talk about a segment called What's Your Problem? We're running a little short on time. How about we shift gears? Because I had this, we were talking about Mexican.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So this is an Austin property, but one of my favorite places to eat is Torchy's Tacos.
Oh, wow.
Torchy's, you've been to Torchy's?
I've been to Torchy's.
Okay. So Torchy started as
we've done a couple lunches.
Okay, think about this. If I'm not mistaken, not that long ago, Torchy's Tacos started. I mean, I'm guessing less than 15 years. 10 years ago, Torchy's Tacos started as a food truck in Austin. Food truck.
Okay.
Then they got their first little store and blah blah blah. I may be making all this up. So do your research, but I think I'm accurate. I think they started as a food truck. I remember when they came to Dallas, it was a big deal. Like, oh man, they got Torchy's. We went over there, and they're always real funky. They got a real funky design, and now they've really grown. They have several more that you drive by them fairly frequently now, and especially down in Austin, they've grown. Well, the founder of Torchy's Tacos now is listing a house in Austin, which will be the most expensive property in Austin. So he's done well for himself to go from food truck to selling a $25 million house. So, but this is a really cool house. So I pulled it up on Zillow. It does kind of scream bro teenager-y guy that got a lot of money and decided to decorate. So the actual address is 4705 Island Cove in Austin. So this is an Austin property.
Oh, and 47.
Well, so what you can do is, so for $25 million, you can get the house and its lot, and then the lot next door. And then if you just want the house, and then you can buy the other lot separately, it's $19 million. So it's two properties. He owns both of them, and you can actually grab them at the same time, or just buy the one with the house on it. Okay. So I don't even know what style this would be, but it's, modern, maybe modern Mediterranean or something like that. It's kind of just odd, but I mean, it's nice. Yeah. It's got huge resort style pool. It feels like a resort for sure. But the inside is the interesting part here. So, well, the poolside cabana, it looks like he's like a Colts fan. He's got this neon Colt. He's got a lot of neon signs.
Oh, I see that.
But they must have a deal with a neon sign company, because in every Torchy's there's a big neon devil. The devil. It's like Cupid. It's like a Cupid devil in every. It's like their mascot or something. So they've got this neon sign in the bar, which is really neat. They've got a lot of funky art. So look at this sort of rotunda. I think this may be the stairs behind it, but they've got this like moss.
Wow. Or is that a light fixture?
That's a wall. You can see it here in a little bit. It's like they've just got a lot of modern art that I'm confident they spent a lot of money on to decorate this place. Custom lights. So do yourself a favor, look up and you can just Google Torchy's Tacos owner home in Austin, and it'll come up.
Oh, look, you can walk past the living room without walking through the living room.
Careful.
Interesting.
Careful. Inside design joke. But I do like the so you've done this. You did this at Shady Hill too. The light up stairs. That's a cool feature. And I've always wanted a house with the grand piano, and then he has the Eames chairs. These might be the fake Eames chairs, but the Eames chairs next to a baby grand piano, pretty cool look. I love that.
Very cool.
And he's got these big windows. They've got a lot of the Austin vibe outside with the trees. And now I knew you would like this. Okay, so we're in the piano room.
Cigar bar.
Yes, we're in the piano room. We've got some Eames chairs here, the modern vibe. And then we have a humidor, a large humidor. This almost looks like the one at the red phone booth.
Yeah,
it's almost the same size as the cigar place that we go to sometimes. And it looks like he's got quite the collection. So yeah, this guy, he's definitely a dude's dude, and said, I need a cigar room and a baby grand piano. But yeah, overall, kind of just a neat, eclectic style house. Obviously, spend a lot of money on custom lights and custom furniture, but it's worth a look, because you don't see a lot of houses come up with this. I guess when you have that much money, you can just throw it around on just custom everything, custom headboard.
So that's an interesting design, which I've seen before, and I've thought about incorporating that design into some of my projects before. No, if you go back, it's got like a floating wall.
This is it's a floating primary.
Yeah, kind of divides that almost looks like they created a sitting room with a vanity, and then it's a floating wall in between to kind of break up where the bedroom
this is something you would do in a loft. So this is a
or
big
where
room.
This
is actually the master bedroom. It's a big enough room to where they could have an area for a couch and a sitting room. And so instead of having it just floating out in the middle, they put up a partition that looks almost like a makeup counter type thing, but there's also a huge TV right there. So you could sit on one side of this wall and sip your coffee that's been imported from somewhere super extravagant, watch the news while your partner is on the other side still sleeping. So this is an amazing setup. Yep. Now the headboard, obviously custom, and that I don't know that I don't think I could pay any amount of money for that. Actually, you could say, hey, that was $10, and I would be like, yeah, I'm good. Now the stonework in the shower, really cool. Obviously a shoe collector. I just love the little insights of this guy. He's got the humidor, but now you can look into the closet, and he's just got rows of tennis shoes in there, and neatly kept. But yeah, I don't know if this guy's married or not, but you know what? This is a really unique. What is that?
That's really cool.
The translucent stuff. What's it called? The
onyx.
So it's like we've talked about this translucent backlit onyx, but they almost blended this here where you have some that's translucent, some that's not. And so it's not like the whole backsplash of the sink that we're looking at, picture 23 of 40 on Zillow in the master bathroom. You can see some coming through, but not all of it. And talk about custom.
Yeah, I love those lights.
Talk about custom. Yeah. They had to put this light. It's like an art installation in the light that's mounted to tile that all have individual actual connections. I don't think this is hanging from the ceiling. So talk about an electrical trim out bill. That would, Callie would definitely add a few $1,000s to do that installation there.
Absolutely.
Really cool, modern-y playroom.
Look at the ceiling paint.
This has to be I don't know if I'd go with that. This has to be the guest bed or guest butler kitchen or something, because oh my gosh, they've got a chiropractic table.
Oh, look at that. Oh, there's a massage chair.
I like that. I like the massage chair.
Wellness room.
Is super funky. Super funky game room. Maybe he has kids. He's got video games everywhere. Oh my gosh, he's got.
Oh, look at that. Those are cool.
Kids Wonderland.
It's like Mario Kart.
Like the sit down Mario Kart. Yeah. He's got a professional pickleball court. This guy's got it all, and an odd picture of the neighbor's house. That's not his house. That's his.
Is it not?
No, I mean, this looks like it's like the picnic table next, but you see the neighbor's house.
But I wonder if that's the canal that
it is. Yeah, I think that's. So you see a boat,
Lake Austin, right there.
Yeah, you see a boat over there. Maybe that's Joe Rogan's house. He lives right there too. So.
Yeah.
I see the canal. The boathouse.
Oh wow!
Pretty nice.
Look at that boathouse.
You need something like this.
That's really well done. Look at that concrete decking that they put in there. Wow!
Only you would look at a $29 million house and be really impressed with the concrete decking at the pool house.
I mean, the boathouse. That's very impressive.
Very impressive, sir. Oh, I use the same. Look, we have things in common. I use the same mosquito thing for my trees.
Repellent.
Yeah, I buy that from Amazon just like this guy. Man, we're basically the same thing.
Okay. Do they work pretty good?
Oh yeah, quarter acre. Yeah, they do a good job.
Nice.
All right. Well, that is that. We have expended our time. I'm sure that people care to hear.
I was wondering what those the penguins. I guess they're penguins. You see that little the lime green deal, and the very first picture we saw, I was like, "What is that lime green person doing there?" But go back.
I'm about
you'll
to
see
at the front here.
See right there. So on the left side.
Yeah.
You got a blue one in the middle, but you got two bright green penguins.
These are sculptures by the pool that are these really brightly colored sculptures of penguins, I guess. This guy's eclectic. If nothing else, he looks like he likes to have fun.
Or he paid a couple different designers.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
Well, I guarantee he paid someone a lot of money. But yeah, super cool house. They're on Lake Austin or near Lake Austin or something like that. Torchy's Tacos. Go eat a nice.
Doesn't look like it's actually on the water.
There's got to be a canal somewhere through there. I mean, here's the lake right here. So.
Oh, it does have a boat
here,
out, so,
look right here.
Yeah.
Here's the canal.
Oh, there's the canal. Got it.
Where it connects to the lake, but there is a canal right there. Interesting.
Got it.
Not really logistics I'll have to worry about figuring out, but if you have not, find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and subscribe so you know every time we post this. We're closing out on episode 100. I was really hoping that we were going to have 5,000 downloads by the time we have episode 100. The only way that's going to happen is if, and I'm not even kidding, people, you have to send this to some folks. You have to download some episodes that you've never downloaded before, put them in your queue for a rainy day. If we can stack up some downloads, we might be able to get to 5,000 by the time we get to 100, which would be a neat little milestone. But we will not be able to do it unless we get some clicks. So send it to some friends. Open up a different computer and just start downloading stuff, so we can rack up some numbers. But anyway, we do appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for all the support and all the texts and all the thumbs up and hey man, I really enjoyed the episode. Those always are really fun to hear, and makes our day every time we do hear it. So anyway, until next time, I hope you have a great day.